Have you ever thought about how fun it would be to go back to the 1990s in a car audio shop and just kind of go through their stock and see what kind of cool things they have? Well, here recently, my buddy Mike from Old School Car Audio Restorations did just that. Came across some really cool items. Check out the previous video where I show unboxing of 4 awesome old school items. But today in particular, we're going to look at a 1990s Rockwood 1000 watt amplifier. That's right, so stay tuned. Props to my boy Mike for an awesome packing job to protect this old school jewel of an amplifier. Check it out. This purple finish of this Rockwood king, absolute king of the flea market. That's right, from back in the day. Let's take a closer look. Check out the graphics. Check out the look. This thing is just exuding awesomeness. The model number AMP-1245x. 125 watts by 4 RMS or 250 by 4 max. That's where they get this 1000 watts from. Amplifier heatsink is actually pretty big overall. Very cool to have the original box. It is too bad we don't have the manual. And you can see here more of the specs and stuff. And made in Korea, registered by the federal government of the United States, but made in Korea. Here on one end of the amp, we have bass controls from 0 to 18 dB, treble for 0 to 18 dB, a power LED, also a level control for channels 1 and 2. Then we have 4 RCA inputs. We have level control for channels 3 and 4. Crossover switch, off or on, and a variable crossover. That is a low pass for channels 3 and 4, so you can use it with subwoofers if you'd like. This is possibly the largest Rockwood amplifier ever made. Here on the opposite side, you see battery, ground, and remote via the screw-down terminals. Also 2 25 amp fuses. Then we also have the push style speaker connections, also 2 buttons for bridged or normal. So this is a 4-channel amp, bridgeable down to 3 or 2 channels as well. Here we'll do a flyover so you can get an idea of what the amp looks like. The graphics and this awesome purple anodized finish really stands out. As far as dimensions go, 21.6 inches by 11.1 by 2.2 inches, millimeter equivalents are there as well. And the ratings according to the Rockwood website, 250 by 4 max, built-in subwoofer, high-low input, bass and treble controls, intercoolant crystal. I don't know what the heck that is. It's also available in a white and a red finish, according to the pictures that I found, but we got the purple one. So you know what we got to do, right? We got to fire up the SMD, Demore Engineering Amplifier Dyno, so we can find out how powerful this amp is. On the left, we'll see the power output in watts. In the middle, the ohm load. The right, the voltage of the dyno. We'll also have a remote clamp so that we can calculate the amplifier's efficiency.
All right. Let's do this.
The Savard 6.5-inch high-Q subwoofer has an RMS power handling of 350 watts, sports a 2-inch voice coil, 11mm one-way X-Max, 22mm overall, 80-ounce Y35 magnet, long strand Kevlar cone for added strength, cast aluminum basket, as well as integrated 12-gauge spring-loaded terminals. Overall, these are great subwoofers. I've used them for several years. Thanks to Savard for sponsoring this video. If you want to check these out, make sure you check links in the video description. Use code WOW7 for 7% off these or other Savard subwoofers. Let's go on to more flexing. This amp is closing in on 30 years old. So we weren't sure if it was going to work or not, but sure enough, it did power up, and we hooked up all 4 channels, 2 of them to the dyno, the other 2 to resistors. Ratings at 4 ohms, 4 channel, 125 watts by 4 RMS or 250 by 4 max. Let's see what we get here. Certified 1 kilohertz, 4 channel mode. What can we get? About 83 watts times 4 at 14 volts. So not quite that 125. Dynamically sending a pulse tone of 1 kilohertz into the amp, we get just a little over 100 watts, still a little shy of that 125 that they overrated it to be at 14.29. Now let's try 2 ohms in the 4-channel mode. Doesn't provide any rating, so we'll just assume the same 125 by 2. Let's try it certified up to 1% distortion. And there you go, 104 watts per channel at 13.85. Next up, we'll try dynamic, sending that 1 kilohertz pulse tone. You can see, yeah, we definitely get over 150 here at 14 volts. Average about 158 or so per channel. So not too bad overall. Next up, we're going to bridge the amp, and this is the most strange bridging I've ever seen. But you actually use the left positive and left negative on each side to bridge the amp. There's some switches on the inside of the amp that control that, but it just really blew my mind. I've never really seen that before. So let's try 8 ohms bridge 2-channel mode. We're going to assume 250 by 2 is what they rated at. Certified test to 1% distortion. 168, 163, so about 165 per channel on average at 14 volts. Now let's try that dynamic test. Can we get that 250 by 2? No, not quite. We still get 200 watts though. This is big power, my friends, from a Rockwood. Y'all should be impressed. I definitely was. Well, now let's try 4 ohms bridged at 2 channels. Let's say 250 watts by 2 again. RMS, can we get 250? No, we get 212 and 210 at 13.87. But what about dynamically? Can we do that 250? Oh, we're going to do uncertified. Big dummy got him. So 221 and 212 at 13.8. Now let's try that dynamic and see if we can get that 250 by 2. Yes, we can. Over 300 watts from a Rockwood. What? 323 and 324 at 14 volts. Yo! Yes, I was impressed overall with this amp that it survived the dyno. It's almost 30 years old and didn't quite do rated power, but did much more than any other Rockwood I've ever tested. Efficiency numbers weren't horrible either. It is a Class AB amp, but there you go. About 60 to about 50% average for that. Next up, we're going to hook it up to the ELAC bookshelf speakers. Try some sound qualityness. We'll see how it sounds. Overall, no real complaints from the sound quality of the Rockwood. It did exhibit some noise at idle, which could have been related to either cold solder joint or capacitors need to be swapped. Anyway, let's flip it over, take out the tons of screws on the bottom of this amp, and take a closer look and see what these guts are all about. Are you ready? Here we go. What? Actually almost fills the whole heatsink. Check it out. We have the signal input board here on the left, also some processing for crossovers. We have the output amplification stage there in the middle, and we have the power supply on the right side. Yes, overall, it's not a super cheap Chinese-made Rockwood amp that we would kind of expect. This is a Korean-made amp from back in the day. Has the 50-volt, 2200 microfarad caps there on the power supply side. 2200 microfarad, 35 volts for the rails. Also, here are the BJT outputs for those who are interested. And here's a flyover once again of the guts, showing that little daughter board, kind of a jumper wire over to the output section. But yeah, overall, I wasn't really mad with this amp. And it's pretty impressive to be a Rockwood and to almost do its rated power. Here you can see the funky wiring going to the fuses. You can also see the 2 little buttons there for bridging the amp. And unfortunately, we did have a little ding on one end of the amp, even though it was brand new. That's all right. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you smash me a thumbs up if you like seeing these old school amp tests. even showing comparison with the brand new JP34AB. Thanks as always for supporting patreon.com/oldschoolstereo. Till next time, Big D, I'm out of here. Just for kicks, let's try dynamic bridge 2 ohms, 1 kilohertz. There you go. Pushing 400 watts. 398 and 396, right at 14 volts.